and putting forward to its members.
Yeah. Well, I took note about, take note about one. Please do. No, first of all, thanks for the co-hostesses for doing that, and I'm happy to contribute to the gender balance here a little bit. But I have to say, speaking about that, I look at the audience and I see a few men, not many. And I do hope that as we go along, when we have these gender balance events, that I will see a half-half audience, which is something that I'm really looking forward to, because I've been to many of these, and often it's 80-20, just about. And men need to come, because they need to listen. There's a lot of work to do, a lot of it at our own homes. So I do hope that we will improve gender balance even in these events. But let me say, the title of the event is Inclusive Trade, and inclusive trade has been very much on the WTO agenda for several reasons. Gender is one of them. And just last year, the 2016 WTO Public Forum was about inclusiveness. That was the title. It was about inclusiveness. And we had 10 sessions on gender. So that was pretty significant, that when we talk about inclusiveness, gender has to be part of that conversation. There is no escaping that. But the more we look into that, more seriously and more actively, the more we notice that there is a huge gap, and we still have a lot of work to do to close that gap. The positive thing, coming from the trade perspective, is that we see trade as a very important promoter for women empowerment, economic empowerment. For example, we looked at the tradable sector, so that's where goods and services can be traded. And a lot of that, the companies, for example, that export those tradable goods and services, they are the ones that employ more women than the countries that do not export. It's a very significant situation. Just some numbers to give you an idea. So in Rwanda, for example, 74% of the people who are engaged in cross-border trade are women. So 74%, that's almost 3/4, 3 in 4. And 90% of them, of those women, they rely solely on cross-border trade as a source of income. So it's a very significant situation. In Cambodia, 86% of the silk industry employees are women. In China, 55% of digital entrepreneurs are women. So there are significant numbers out. There are asymmetries and problems, like the level of skills in some areas for women is lower. So there is a lot behind those numbers. Let's not be fooled by the numbers alone. Another thing, I think Arantxa mentioned, that trade pays better. In women-owned export businesses, they pay about 1.6 times more than in non-export businesses. And they are 3.5 times more productive than non-export businesses. So clearly, there is something about trade and gender that we can explore and use to our advantage. Having said that, there is a disproportionality in the participation of women in several areas. For example, in all exporting firms, if you look at all the exporting firms that exist in the world, only 1 in 5 is led by a woman. So it's very low, and we can do a lot better there. And also there are several barriers that exist and that you really are not aware of unless you really are looking into that hamper the participation of women in trade and in business. So we need to address those. I will give you a few examples of them. And I have to say, a lot of that work is domestic. It's within national borders. So we all have a role to play, and sometimes, like I said, at our own homes. So if we want to change this, we all have to be engaged somehow. We cannot rely on somebody else to do the job for us. Now, problems that we can see. To begin with, legal and regulatory barriers. So women are constrained under so many different fronts that it's even hard to begin. For example, obtaining credit is tougher for women in many, many countries and jurisdictions. Registering property, There are many countries where women cannot have a business or a property to begin with. Even opening a bank account. There are countries where women need authorization by the husband to open a bank account. And that, not only in developing countries, mind you, so be aware of that. Out of 190 countries, 155 economies that were studied by the World Bank show that women do not have the same rights as men. 155 out of 190, with at least one law that places men and women at different levels. That is a huge gap. Imagine what President Bachelet was talking about, sports. Can you imagine a sport where one team is already with the rules advantaging them? Would that be fair? I mean, would you even go to watch a sport like that? That's the situation here. So we have really to look at these small things, which look small, but they're really huge in the empowerment of women. So access to capital is another one. Women in general have less collateral. The man has a business, the house, has something. Women don't in most situations. Like I said before, even to register the business is a problem for women. Gender biases also present greater risks. And I'll give you one example. Another World Bank study showed that women, when they're crossing the border as entrepreneurs, they are disproportionately harassed, much more than men. And they're also asked for bribes much more than men. So while the man crosses the border reasonably unimpeded, the woman faces so many more challenges simply because of their gender. Now, cultural barriers as well. It's not enough only to have the laws. Francois here was talking about the progressiveness of Canada. And this is a very striking example we all should follow, by the way, that degree of progressiveness. But there was a study done in Canada, not because of the problems in Canada, but precisely because of the progressiveness in Canada, which is 75% of the women that were interviewed in that study said that they perceived lack of respect by their colleagues and the refusal to be taken seriously. So knowledge, skills, there are so many things that I could go on and on, but I have been already flagged that my time is over. So I will conclude here by saying that there's a lot to do in the WTO. One thing we're trying to do is help the small and medium enterprises because they employ women more than other types of enterprises. Electronic commerce is another area where I think we can act a little bit more and raise awareness, and among other things. We actually distributed this brochure that we prepared. I hope you have received it. If you didn't, please look for it. And we are following this with a much deeper study on women in trade, which will come hopefully soon. Thank you.